This is the Bonus Section Podcast, episode number 78. Stop making snap decisions. Are you the type of person that knows you were meant for something greater in this lifetime and that somewhere inside of you, there's just this bigger version of yourself trying to break through? But in spite of all your self-development attempts, you just can't seem to find the way up there. Well, then, hey, you are definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Bonus Section and the host of this podcast, and a person just like you, trying to live the most fulfilling life possible. Now, to help you take immediate action to get moving in a better direction, we take all the notes from each episode and we post them at freethinkingtools.com, freethinkingtools.com, because that's what they are. It's just something to provoke you into the body of work to think. And I always highly recommend when you think, write. Because when you write, you sort out what's important to you. And once you sort out what's important to you, you build a better strategy, okay? All right, stop making snap decisions. My goodness. From my kids to the real estate agents at my company to friends and family, I just see people just make these quick, snap in the moment decisions. And that's all driven by emotion. And you just know deep down inside that that's not always the best way to do it. I'm not saying that a snap decision because your gut tells you you crossed the wrong side of the street in the dark alley and you say you sense danger and the saber-toothed tiger is there. I get that. But come on, I'm not talking about life or death stuff here. I'm talking about walking more upright and thinking about how you're making decisions that can be a major effect on your life, especially whether they be about what school to go to or they're about what job to take and where to move and all this. It's just unbelievable how quickly people are making these quick judgments about their lives. And then everybody wonders why they're living paycheck to paycheck or they're living with all this stress. How can you ever get anywhere wonderful by jumping lily pad to lily pad because you think the flies taste better over there and then over here and then over there? It's just stunning to me that we do this. Now, was I guilty of that as a younger person? Probably. To a larger extent than I am. I always had some sense of trying to be organized and goal-oriented. This isn't new to me. I remember it as a kid. So I didn't make as many snap decisions, but certainly the ones that I did changed the course of a lot of things. And oftentimes, some were unrecoverable. You could never get back the opportunity that you had once upon that time ago. Right? So snap decisions can really change the course of your life. And you have to get out of that emotional state to recognize it. So let me go through this. The first point here is any decision made without some level of conscious thinking or conscious thought is often unsafe. So let me go back to, and again, when you're coaching people, people come and go. When you own companies, people come and go. And it's just amazing what affects them, and you feel for them. I mean, some of it's flat out mental illness, and they're not able to get out of that constant state of aggravation and worry and, anger, whatever it might be. I mean, I've been around long enough to see a lot of it, and I just really feel for people. And what I would say, if you feel like you are really out of control in one of those states, seek professional help from a psychologist, a psychoanalyst, a psychiatrist. They all have a little bit of a different angle on how they help. Do your research on that. But stop making all these snap judgments in that state of being. And if you know somebody that's in that state of being, your moral and ethical obligation is to try to, assuming it's somebody you love or somebody you care about, try to get involved with that and make that suggestion and help them get the help that they need, right? Because a lot of these decisions they make are unsafe. I mean, let's talk about the person who has a good job. And they're going along, but they can't seem to get out of their anger state. The next thing you know, they've been at the job for a while and they get in a fight with the boss and it's over. I quit. And nobody got fired, but they quit. Now, that's happened to me in my business where people were going along fine and I could tell they were struggling because they said they were struggling with a lot of life issues. And then they just woke up and quit. And some of them, while they were being very successful, I can think of 2 right now. And it's like, whoa, that's scary because where did you just put yourself now? Now you just jumped out of the side of the plane that was flying you in a direction that was safe. You were learning and you were there. Okay, maybe you didn't like me. Maybe you didn't like the circumstances. I get it. But did you really give any thought before you jumped out the side of the plane without a parachute, without a plan? And that's what I mean is that when you don't take that moment to get out of an emotional state, and what can help you, by the way, just something I've learned over time. If you find yourself in an emotional state, what's the best way to get out of it? Right? Because you're thinking when you're angry and you feel wronged and really that's just hurt. Right. Get it out of your head, through your arm, through a pen, or a pencil, and onto a piece of paper and sort it out. Because eventually you sort of punch yourself out of that state of heightened emotion, and you can start to see logically down there, okay, I'm hurt, this stinks, let me get involved with this, situation, let me make it better. And you can't always make it better with somebody else, okay? There's only so far you can go. You can definitely make it better with yourself. You can pull yourself out of an emotional state. You can see your inner child misbehaving, whatever it is. You can get there. But you're not always going to make it right with the other person. So go as far as you possibly can before it starts to make no sense. And now you're just making a fool of yourself and that person, and you're exacerbating their aggravation. Walk away, right? So that's what I mean by a decision made without conscious thought is often unsafe, right? Second point here is that this kind of impetuous behavior is an indication, it's a clear red light of low emotional intelligence. And I don't mean generally all the time. If it's happening to you all the time and you're making snap decisions about everything and you find yourself isolated, come on, don't ignore. If you have the capacity to see the red light going off, something's wrong, maybe this is me, right? Don't ignore that. And then question your emotional intelligence. That's your animal brain that's getting exasperated, right? And the animal brain that's out of control, that's just trying to do the bare minimum to survive, is always under stress. Think about an animal that's always under attack and doesn't run in a herd or doesn't hide during the right times of day or night, whatever that might be. It's just this constant state of stress. And it's coming from lack of emotional intelligence. See, when people become emotionally intelligent, I know that begs the question, well, how the heck do you become emotionally intelligent? You work on your self-development every single way that you can. And I'll say, start with this: read, write, and think. Not necessarily in that order, but those are the three key things. Read, write, think, read, write, think, read, write, think, constantly. That's how self-development starts. And it usually starts with maybe even just recreational reading. Reading one of the great authors who writes about life, and it makes you think a little bit, right? And then you become a more intelligent person intellectually. And you have more scenarios that you can think about. I'm reading right now some of the great Russian writers, right? So I have a Dostoevsky novel next to me. It's called The Idiot, right? Here I am, The Idiot, right? It's fabulous. And I can feel as my intellect increases in an academic way, I can feel emotionally more in control. I can feel more connected to a bigger body of work in life. I can see the struggles of the characters and the development of their situations and their exasperations. And, it's interesting. So even just recreational reading. Then there are plenty of things that I read to get better at something. And I listen a lot too. I'm an auditory learner as well. So I listen to a lot of auditory books. I listen to podcasts. I listen to YouTube a lot in the gym. When I'm doing my physical workouts, that's another thing that helps my emotional intelligence. I get that frustration and that anger out. I sort it out physically. And this psychosomatic balance begins to come in. So, there are a lot of things that you can do to get out of that. But if you see yourself behaving impetuously, which means, just on that emotional impulse, and that results in these snap decisions, then something's out of balance. So psycho, mind, somatic, body. So all these things, from eating correctly, sleeping correctly, and working on your brain to expand the psychology of what goes on in there and what resources you begin to have, you can really affect that. And it's not a lot of work. Don't say, well, I don't like to read. Okay, listen. Turn off Instagram, which just brain numbs you, or at least go in there and say, not interested in this, not interested in this. Yes, interested in this. If it's educational about something you want, use the platforms you're on to build up emotional intelligence instead of just this brain numbing stuff that leaves you stressed out because you didn't do anything, right? For hours. The next point is snap decisions also leave very little room for better strategy. So meaning that if you keep making them, you don't really ever have the chance to think, well, what was in front of me? Was there anything strategic? And this is sort of that you don't know what you don't know. So you start off and you see what's in front of you and you're doing it, and maybe it's not working for you. And even if it is a good strategy, and you say, well, this isn't for me, and you snap, and you don't really take that time to say, okay, before I leave this, before I change this, before I stop doing this, let me take a conscious look and be more in let me just, even if it takes a few minutes, if I just become more fully aware of what these circumstances are. What's the bone structure of what's happening in front of me? Not the emotional thing I can see right in front of me in the argument or the disagreement or the upset or the setback. Instead of getting caught up in that moment, what if I say, ooh, that stinks. Let me write this down. It stinks that the boss said this. It stinks that the coach didn't do this. It stinks that I wasn't able to achieve that, right? Write that down. And then say why. See, one of the books I'm very excited, and this is how learning happens for me, and I'm able to try to maintain a higher level of emotional intelligence, which I think you have to work on all the time because you can snap back to your inner baby anytime that you want. But the Gulag Archipelago is a book that came up to me. Solzhenitsyn, I believe. Solzhenitsyn is the author. And this is somebody that spent a lot of time during World War II in and around the Russian concentration camps, right? During all of the back and forth with the Russians and the Germans. And instead of blaming his circumstances, he wrote a book about, how did I get here? Why am I in this circumstance? I mean, that's incredible, right? That's incredible. So in this emotional state where you would have every reason in the world to be emotional and make snap decisions that it's everybody else's fault, he didn't do that. Right? He sat down and he wrote this book, and the person that references the book credits him with possibly being a very large part of why the Soviet Union disbanded itself, right? It was one man thinking and being honest and bringing the highest level of emotional intelligence to this moment could really affect so much else. So what if that's you? What if you stop making these decisions? What if all of a sudden you persevere a little bit more? What if you take more self-responsibility, and by doing so, not only do you improve your own life, you improve those around you, and then that affects other people in this wave. So there are a lot of philosophers and writers that believe that's the very thing. So this is a big topic. This is a big deal. You might be able to more positively affect a lot more people by stop being so emotional and making these quick snap decisions and then blaming everybody else that your circumstances that you just created through the snap decision are their fault because they did this, this, and this, most of it fabricated in your head because you're in such a heightened emotional state, right? So the bonus section of the bonus section podcast today is, and I said it already a little bit, but you don't know what you don't know. So these quick decisions really hurt your ability to learn. Like, let this sink in. So you're making a decision, we all are, on what we know today. And so if we just take that and we go blind to the rest and we make that snap decision, we really hurt our ability to become constantly a learner. We lose our curiosity. We become more and more, because you feed that beast, you feed that impetuous animal who wants to make these quick decisions and move in these other directions and look for instant gratification. Sound familiar to everybody out there that's looking for instant gratification all the time? In your relationships, in your jobs, where you live, you can't sit still. You have Mexican jumping beans in your pants, right? You can't sit still. Gotta go there. Gotta go. Where's all the time for thinking, learning, writing? Right? Sit down, slow down, because it doesn't take that much time. All right, let me go back and hit these points. Please stop making snap decisions. I look back at the ones I've made over my lifetime and that's how I feel. First point, a decision made without conscious thought is often unsafe. Second point, your impetuous behavior is definitely an indication of low emotional intelligence. And who wants that? 3, snap decisions leave little room for better strategy. There's no time for strategizing. And that's because in point 4, the bonus section, you don't know what you don't know. None of us do. So we're blind, and quick decisions hurt our ability to learn before we move on. I'll summarize it by saying this. As life has accelerated, the perception that we must keep the pace has conditioned many people to make snap or quick decisions so that they can stop the brain overload they're feeling and the stress they feel. That's oftentimes why we make it, because the animal's easier to deal with than the thinker. The irony is that when we take a beat, just a beat, to think, by considering that we don't know what we don't know, we might just change our mind and make a better strategic decision that helps us move closer to our intended goal. And when we do that, we affect a lot of people positively. All right, remember, you can take immediate action if you want to get moving towards your goals, because we take all the notes from each episode and we post them at freethinkingtools.com, and we give you instant access. And remember, this is to provoke you to think, right? To read, to write, all those things. I just want you to go somewhere and do that. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. We also post all our content on YouTube. So don't forget to subscribe to the Bonus Section channel. Let me see more of you over there subscribing. And by the way, coming soon, new websites. So all of this is easier to access, cleaner, more modern. I'm going to put that content out there. So I force you to think, read, write, and get better. We'd also appreciate it, of course, if you would join our mission of becoming people for others. That's the inspiration for the Bonus Section podcast. And that means we'd love you to share the content with other people just like you so they get the help that they need too. Remember, one person can dramatically affect a lot of others. But remember this, I sign off the same way every time. Nobody's coming for you. Absolutely nobody. So go get to work on yourself and a better plan for your goals, and we will see you in the next episode to help you do just that. Thanks again.